run with it.
I had no idea. I mean, we have a lot of common followers, so I was like, okay, I felt better about it, right? Because if you get
what I'm saying. Like if I was like a random person just texting you,
if you get a weird message, then you're likely to kind of avoid that if
obviously,
you don't know. Yeah. And you were like offering to come to me, which is super nice. So I was like, okay, I feel better about it since I know people that you've interviewed before. And followers that we've had together, so.
Yeah. Who did you know before?
I know of Brandon Hodgins.
Okay.
Yeah, that owns Pale Blue. And then I've heard of Adam Stremlow before, who you mentioned,
cool.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's freaking... Brandon is dope. He was the first person that ever got me into anything involving this, because I worked for the Jack Pine Tribune. And
really?
We would... we only had it for a little bit, because it was right at the tail end before it shut down. But we were on Z93, and we'd have our like own little like sports corner where we would like me, Drew, him, and Adam Hall. I think would all just like, oh, we're playing basketball. Home Lake plays Beaverton, and who do you think's gonna win? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I got to be on that, and that was like, my voice was so much obviously different in high school.
Right.
So it was very like, holy shit, like that's gonna be on the radio. I was like, please don't, but it was fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I just obviously love everything that they do for the community. They're both, I don't even know if either of them really know who I am, but they've made an impact to where I've heard about them and everything that they've done within Gladwin and the community and even surrounding cities too. They're just great people, both him and Becky. So,
yeah. Have you been to the smokehouse?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So good.
Have you ever went when they did the intimate dining?
No, but I feel like
you've
honestly,
seen
like every experience feels like an intimate dining experience to me with that, because of how it's set up and how they have their tables. Like their house where they have it is.
It's literally like a home.
Yeah, and it's kind of like this. Like this is a Victorian home where I'm at. So it feels very familiar to me, and I'm used to like growing up in a home like that or like being in a home like that a lot. So it felt like that. It just feels like I'm eating dinner at home with my family when I go to eat there, which is really nice.
And it's good as all can be.
Yeah, it is so good.
But when they do the intimate dining, they have like the whole like 5-course meal. They already have it planned and everything, and then you sit there and they'll just come out and serve you.
That's awesome.
And it's so, and they'll like come back for seconds. And then they have the whole like dessert at the end that she makes. Oh,
that's what I was gonna say. My favorite part is always looking at the dessert options and seeing what Becky has made for that day.
Because it's freaking. That place is dope. And I've been in it. Like it's kind of weird that you said the whole Victorian style, because I did his podcast up in the third story of that.
Oh yeah.
And it's when you said that, it's like identical with the whole like having the ceilings and everything. And I was like, yeah, that makes. But his is obviously just straight wood. So it was kind of cool. But yeah. That's wild that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
It's a like sweet house.
It is.
Like, and that he could like, I don't know what was the plan prior to him buying it. If it was gonna go, I doubt it was probably gonna get taken down. But
I don't remember what it was before that. But I don't think it was really being used for anything. It might have been like the Historical Society or something like that before.
That's what I was saying. I don't remember it being a deal prior to that.
Yeah, but it's a great place to have something like that. Even like this place used to be like a bed and breakfast, so kind of same scenario where like the one main floor was where they would cook the food, and then people would stay in all different areas of the house.
And then because on the second time when I came back through, because I forgot the freaking cord, there's a basement too.
Yeah.
There's so many.
There is here too.
Yeah, so there's 2 levels, there's 3 levels, and then the basement.
Yeah, that's how this is. Yeah.
That's freaking huge.
Yeah, and pretty much like every floor of this place except for... Okay.
You're good. I don't think it'll pick it up.
Oh my gosh, okay. Pretty much every floor of this place except for this level can be split up into multiple apartments. Like that's how big it is. Yeah.
That's sweet though. Okay. Pleasantries.
It's because your laptop is on the ground. I feel like I should get a table or something. He just won't leave it alone.
Yeah, just something that is fine.
On a chair.
Come on.
Don't put that in there.
Boom. A little bit louder. But, okay. So, personal training. When did you actually get into personal training, not just like fitness?
Personal training, like actually taking clients, whether it was for money or not, probably 4 to 5 years ago, like 4.5 years ago, I would say is a good number. Yeah.
And that's, you didn't probably hit the ground running or anything.
No, that was when I first started. I was working 3 other jobs and going to college full time, and I just did it as like something that was fun for me. It was just like a little side thing. Yeah, because I was going to college full time, so I obviously needed the money, and I paid for all of my own schooling, and I got a bunch of scholarships, which I was grateful for. That's why I went to Northwood and chose to go that way with my education. But I had to pay for everything myself, so I was like, what's another way that I can incorporate something I'm passionate about into making money? And when I was in high school, and music is still a really big part of my life, but when I was in high school, I used to give like beginner's guitar lessons, and I would do like a bundle of 5 sessions or something for a certain price, and then I would meet up with them 5 times, and I'd teach them, a number of songs, a number of chords, and things like that, and that was my thing then. But I didn't want to do that anymore, and I continued on the fitness realm a lot more consistently than my music stuff. Like, I've picked up music since then now, but that wasn't something I had really had time to continue during college. So I knew I worked out all the time, and I decided to get my education in that and get some certifications there while I was going to school at Northwood. And then I just started with working with random friends and people that I knew, and people to see if I could even help them, right? Yeah. Like, I was like, okay, let's see if I know what I'm talking about. Like, I can do this with myself, and I've been able to get me to where I want to be at the time, right? But let's see if I can successfully do this with other people. And with little knowledge that I had, just giving lifestyle tips and advice, I was able to do that. So, and it was super fun for me. Like, I loved and still do love the connections that I build with my clients, and my work doesn't feel like work at all. And that's how I got started with it all, was just like, let's just see if I can like help people in my life feel better about themselves, and like drag them to the gym and
use that,
make them eat this, or like get them to eat more protein or whatever. And then it just kind of stemmed into, this is really exciting for me. I need to learn more about this so that I can actually help people in a way that I understand more.
So was the goal obviously originally not to be a personal trainer? Like, if you went to Northwood, what were you like?
Yeah, I don't know what I was really going for. When I was deciding where to go to college, a big factor for me was money and finances. And I did a competitive scholarship at Northwood, which I'm grateful for, because I'm not going to lie, like, I'm obviously smart, but my SAT scores and things like that determine your scholarships nowadays, they weren't that great. So like, I wasn't getting a lot of money from other universities. So I did this competitive scholarship at Northwood, which was really about talking about your idea of the American dream and what that meant for you. And I talked a lot about how one day I did want to own my own business, but I wasn't exactly sure what that was going to be. So, and then I talked about how in my family, there's over 20 businesses, small or big, that are owned by my family members. So it's just something I've always been a part of, like helping other families.
Just doesn't scare you either.
Right, exactly. It's a normal thing for me. There's a lot of people around me that do that. So, and I won that scholarship, and that's where I got the most money, and it was cheapest for me to go to school. So I was like, okay, I don't know exactly what I want to do. I'm going to get my degree in business management, and then it worked out to where I could bundle my MBA and my BBA together. So I ended up getting my master's in business administration while I was doing all of my other education. So if I were to do it over again, I would, knowing what I do now and what I'm passionate about, I would definitely do something in the exercise science field or kinesiology or something like that, because I've spent a lot of money now doing that and investing into resources to learn that now. Like, my certifications, I'm in a really awesome mentee program right now with my coach, Dominic Kuza. He's fantastic and one of the smartest people I've ever met personally. And he's taught me so much about like hormone health and blood work and being able to expand my coaching into that realm. And given me really good resources of where I can go to further my knowledge even more with those things without getting my kinesiology degree or something, because I don't want to go to school all over again. But
and you wouldn't learn that in kinesiology school anyway.
Right, and it's worth it to me to invest in those like smaller, more specialized programs, I guess, where like Chris and Eric, like you're working with Chris and Eric, where you're actually going to learn and get the one-on-one help for what you specifically need. Yes.
Yeah, not everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's sweet. The whole blood. I've heard another girl on my Instagram talk a lot about that, and like I get it. It's just the whole like being able to test, like how much does that cost, like all that.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
But like obviously there's a bunch of logistics to something like that. That it's not like it's just something I would look into right now without knowing anything about it. I'm not gonna like dive into figuring out how I'm going to pay for my clients to not for me not to even know what I'm talking about.
Exactly. And that's kind of like the really cool part that I love a lot about what I do is that there are so many things to learn and so many different ways you can help people. And once you like get that under your belt, then you've got a whole different skill set to be able to help somebody with something. Like, for example, now I have almost all my clients get blood work done, at least at some point. Like, we talk about it, we talk about the expense of it, and we talk about when is, like, a good game plan for them to get it, if it's not something they can afford at this time, because it's necessary, especially if there's anything going on with their hormones, which we can't really tell unless you get that tested. Yeah, and that can cause a lot of problems long-term, like, when it comes to women specifically with weight loss and just seeing like a plateau in weight loss or mood swings as they get older and not really knowing how to manage those hormones because you don't know, right? Even me, like before I started working with my coach, I had no idea. I'm extremely estrogen dominant, and that causes issues for me within my body, issues that I just thought were normal for me that are not. Yes, exactly. So it's gotten a lot better since then, and especially mood-wise, like my anxiety and stress levels are way down because I actually have a balanced hormone panel instead of it being all over the place and me just trying to function through life and thinking that's normal. But it's really easy for our hormones as females to get messed up, especially if you've ever been on birth control, especially, which most females have been.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's crazy. Me and my girlfriend have had that talk a little bit too about like what do you, because what like age do you even start it, like what age did she start it, like all that other stuff, like just what goes into like doing it to a kid that early, and like what, like you just hear it so often, like how it messes with stuff and no one even knows the side effects at all. So then it's just like, then they get older and they wonder why like all this stuff's different. It's just like there's been stuff going on this whole time that you don't even,
like for me, and people go on birth control for all different reasons, but it's like it. And a lot of things in the medical industry are like just put on as a Band-Aid for things, right? Like for me, I got put on birth control specifically when I was 14, specifically because I had really bad cramps and I had super bad acne. So I was told like that would help with that, and that's what the doctor told us too. And it did. Like it did for sure. Like but did I need to be on birth control at 14? No, I didn't need to be messing with my hormones at that time at all. I was like, you're not developed at all at that point. Like, not that you need to be for birth control, but it's just something like, it's just something that I feel like gets prescribed way too often, or it's just early. Like, or early, yes, way too early on in life. So that's,
But back to the blood work thing. What made you like, I don't know, you always talk about like, the health professionals when you see on YouTube, like like Hubermans and all them, like the higher up, to where the science seems a little too like far fetched for like the average person to get to, and then you like talk to like whoever your mentor is, and all of a sudden everything just makes sense. It's so much. I don't know. I feel like I need to dive into that for sure.
Yeah.
That'd be, and I've also been interested in mine, and because I went through. I don't know if you remember, like, or if you even, obviously you probably didn't know me in high school, but when I went to Beaverton, I was, like, tiny. Like, I mean, when you saw me, if you would have saw me drive, you would have looked at me and be like, this kid is like 12. There's no way he's driving. I had to have like a booster seat and shit.
Yeah.
Like legitimately, I hid it under my car, like my driver, like my car seats, my car covers. But I went, and once I hit college, I did SARMs to get strong and everything. I did it twice. Like 2 months span, but like years apart.
Yeah.
And then I went to the doctor recently because I was like, you know what? Like, I probably should, like, get blood work done.
Right.
And I told him the whole thing, and he looked at me, he's like, you know, you're probably fine. And I'm sitting there, and I was like, yeah, I get I'm probably fine. But, like, I don't know. I kind of feel like I just want to know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what could, like, like you said, if you don't, like, you can't tell that. You can't tell just by feeling it. And I never had any so-called side effects in my, like, I knew what I was mildly doing when it came to it. I wasn't going crazy. I was doing what it prescribed, and that's it. I was eating good. I was sleeping, all that good stuff, and no side effects. But I feel like, obviously, there has to be something, because I did see gains.
Yeah. So, a lot of times, like, with doctors, and that's pretty common, like if you go to a regular doctor and you ask for a blood work panel, or especially to look at your hormones with your blood work, they'll just be like, oh, you don't really need to see that. Like, I've had multiple clients tell me that be their scenario. Like, they'll go even to their OBGYN or something like that and ask for a hormone panel, and they'll just be like, no, I think you're fine. And it's like, but like, why would you say that if you've never even checked it? Because a regular blood work panel at the doctor doesn't include anything with your hormones usually. It might include estrogen. It might include testosterone. Maybe. And for a female, it's not going to include testosterone. That's only if you're a male, right? Yeah. Like, it would be estrogen. So we don't get those things tested regularly, and it's rare that I have my clients go to an actual family doctor or practitioner or whatever to do something like that because it's not covered by insurance, right? It's a whole like thing in the back end. Like those tests aren't covered by insurance, and if they test them, then they could get in trouble for doing all of that. But all of that should be covered 100%.
For sure.
But it's not. So I send a lot of my clients to LabCorp or Quest, doing it online. Now there's a new facility open in Midland called Live One. They're opened by Jessica Raymond, and I forget her partner that they opened it with. But they do blood work testing there, where they'll do everything for you. They work right with LabCorp as well, where they can do everything, no question, for you. But you can go online. You just have to pay for it. It's like if you go online, it's $200 to $300 depending on what blood test you want. Getting like a full consultation or something like that from Live, I think, is like on the $500 end. But you need a consultation with it. If you like work with me, I give you a consultation with your blood work. But if not, you would want somebody to talk to you about it.
You need someone to tell you what is going on.
Right, exactly.
How to read it.
But it's totally worth it, and it just, like, you can schedule it yourself, so I don't get why people just don't do it for you. Like, you can do it yourself and go and have anybody do it for you with the lab order that you bought online. You just have to pay $200 to $300 instead of having your doctor do it. I've had some clients that have had, like, extreme medical issues in the past, so they're like, you know, my doctor will do whatever I tell them to do, so they're able to get it and like just be sense. Like, hey, I really need this, my trainer says it, you know what I've got going on, like, give me this test, and they'll cover it. But that's very rare. Very rare. And I probably shouldn't say that because maybe they'll get in trouble for it, but I'm not saying who it is, so whatever. But it just sucks that, like, we have to go through such
hassles.
Yes, hassle to figure out our health sometimes. And even, like, there have just been multiple occasions where, like, the clients have been rejected blood work from their healthcare professional, and then they get it from me, and, like, we see something that's clearly wrong. Like, for example, they're extremely insulin resistant. Like, and they just keep gaining weight, and we can't tell why, but the doctor says there's nothing wrong, right? Then we test their insulin levels, and they're, like, 25 or 30, which is like 3 times what they should be, right? So examples like that, or even things like clients that are premenopausal, like in their 40s, 50s, women, getting hot flashes and having all these symptoms when really it's probably just their progesterone's out of whack or way too low, and they're estrogen dominant,
Yep.
and they need to balance that. But there's no way to tell if you don't check it out.
Side effects that you just think you have to deal with.
Exactly. Yeah. And if any woman goes through that, like as they're nearing that age, they're going to think like, this is just what I have to deal with for the next 15 years.
Yeah.
And to some extent, yes, but we can reverse those side effects and make them a lot easier to deal with.
Yes. That's crazy. There's so much, like, obviously that you can break down from it, and that's just so much value you can add just to your client. And it's not even like all you have to do is read the paper and be like, okay, this is what we're going to do.
Exactly. Like, and I really do think like something I'm very thankful for that I've added into my coaching in this last year is having Dom as my mentee, my coach as my mentor, I'm his mentee, because I think it's really helpful to have a second opinion on things sometimes, like to have a team, and now I have my, assistant coach will often go through things together, bounce ideas back and forth. I have Dom to be, if there is ever an issue where I don't know something, I go to him and I'm like, hey, like, this is what I think, but, like, what would you do? How should we approach this? And it's just so helpful to have that. And it does add value into my coaching. It's like we've got a team of health professionals looking at your stuff and making sure that we're doing the best for your health, not for anything else. Because I think a lot of times, like, especially just when people look into like trying to lose weight super fast, like the injections that are available now that people just so often like immediately get on, like, no, like it's a Band-Aid, right? But like as a doctor, as a healthcare professional, you should probably be telling them like, hey, what do you eat in a day? Or like I know so many nutritionists at doctors' offices that don't even give meal plans or anything like that. Or I've seen meal plans from them and it's like 1,200 calories. It's like, are you trying to kill this person? Like, are you trying to starve them to death? Because that's what it seems like. And I just wish that information was more readily available, which is really ultimately why I do what I do, right? To try to spread as much knowledge as possible and actually help people, opposed to giving them a bunch of Band-Aids. Stupid answers that Google gave them to. Like, all the time I hear, little myths that you'll hear in nutrition, like a really common one, big one, is like you can't eat carbs, right? Or like cut out carbs if you're trying to lose weight. And sometimes I think like, how do people still think this? Like, oh my gosh, but it is
the
like
portion control and everything,
Yes, but this stuff is like you've got to try to do your best with like separating a marketing gimmick and what is actually true nowadays. Science, with any industry, honestly. And it just sucks that we have to filter that so much sometimes. But that's what we're here for, trying to actually spread real knowledge and help you individually and, like, help people understand that, like, with most things in life, especially with your health and, like, your routine with that, it's not a one-size-fits-all. No, and, there is always a way to adapt something to you and your goals and just make it more efficient for you. And less of a stressor if you put a little bit of effort into it or gain the knowledge that you're missing, right? To get you there. So
there's some passion right there.
No, it is. Seriously, like I don't know. I've been doing this for a long time and I've seen a lot of stuff that really pisses me off in the health industry, honestly. And it's really because I'm there with people during that lifestyle change. So I see like where they start in the beginning where they're like, oh, I've tried this or I've done that or I looked this up and it told me to do this or I had a whatever coach and they just didn't really check. They've done all these things and they're so frustrated and they've like came to the conclusion that like it's not for them and like they can never be successful. But it's not the case. And I think
There's not enough of the right information.
Yeah, there's not enough of the right information, and there's not enough of the right drive behind why people do what they do either, right? Like having a drive, it's
understanding why people, like the crazy people that lift all the time, the reason they do is because, not because it's hard, but because it's literally harder not to.
Yes.
It feels worse when you don't go.
Exactly.
And you just haven't gotten to the point where you realize that.
Right.
So then, obviously, you don't know. It's just like a hidden thing. Until you know, you know.
Right. Like, you haven't built that habit or that, like, consistent routine that works for you yet, so you don't feel that. It's too much stress. It's too much overwhelm right now. But once you get to the point where you get a routine that works for you instead of, like, working against you the whole time, then it just, it changes it for you. And that can always change. Like, your goals and your habits and things that you do can always change, and they will, yes.
I went from being a right after work lifter, 5 o'clock during prime time, also then getting pissed that there's so many people in the gym and I don't want to be there during that time. So then it's like, you know what? The only other time is go later or wake up in the morning. And guess what? I've became like a 5 a.m.er because it's like, this is so easy. There's no one here.
Right.
I can do whatever I want. It's chill.
Yeah.
And I get it, like, just like the feel good part of the day. Like, if I feel good in the morning, then the rest of the day is chill,
Oh, yeah.
It's so much nicer. And like I said before, though, the whole people not understanding the whole energy in, energy out. People think if I'm going to sit there and just put all this, like, working out and I'm going to be tired. I'm like, yeah, you are initially, but then you get used to it.
Yeah.
And then it's like...
It's a fuel.
Yeah. Then you go lift and you feel like you want to do more after.
Yeah.
At first, you're definitely not going to feel like that. You're going to feel like crap after. But trust me, if you're doing it right or doing it, like, progressively enough, then it'll eventually give you more energy in the long run.
The benefits are going to be greater than any... like temporary pain or discomfort you have in the moment, because usually even my new clients that aren't used to all of this yet, they still always say they feel better after the workout, right? It's just like getting there that's the hardest part.
And it's also crazy that they tell you that and then they continue to not believe it later. It's like, you remember when you said that, right? Like you said it, not me. And now you just don't, like, trust it anymore. Like, you just have to go.
Yeah. I do that to my clients all the time. Like, if they say something, I'll be like, do you remember last time when blah, blah, blah? And they'll be like, oh, yeah. And then it just... Clicks. Yeah, because and that's, having a coach can help for so many reasons, but that's, like, a main one. Even me, like, I will have doubts within myself or just maybe be upset about something for whatever reason. Like, especially right now being on prep, I have days... or I'm just ornery about something for no reason, or, like, I'm super hard on myself, and I just message my coach about it, and he'll be like, well, remember this, or, like, da-da-da-da, and I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, like, all good, yeah.
But it's just until someone reminds you, obviously. But still, like, even coaches need reminded, like, clients, everyone needs reminded. It's not just because you're a client, it's not just because you're new, like, we're all still, it's just that even when we do have those moments, we'll just recover quickly. Yeah. Like, that's honestly, and my girlfriend hates it, but if I don't feel like I've done, like, especially if I don't lift in the morning, but, like, if I haven't done enough in the day, I will go do a late lift and go to bed late, because if I don't, I'm going to be laying in bed thinking about lifting and, like, I didn't get enough shit done in the day. Yep. And I'll have too much energy to go to bed. And it's like, this is not how it's supposed to be. I'm supposed to, like, hit the sheets and be out. Yeah. And that's, like... And anyone that has, like, sleeping issues, go lift.
Right. Oh, yeah, for sure. It helps so much.
Yeah, go lift. You'll be tired enough to lift. Or sleep. Yeah. It's so much nicer.
Yep, I agree.
So, coaching. We'll go back to that. When did you get with Chris and Eric? That was probably not too long ago.
It's been a while now. I started working with them like 2 years ago, because I worked with them for like a year, and it's been about a year since I have been done working with them. Gotcha. Yeah. So it's been a while. I started with them my grad school year. So 2021, the beginning of, or like fall of. Yeah. Maybe 2022. I don't know. What year is it? 2022. Yeah, I think, yeah. It would have been not the most previous September, but the one before.
That.
Mm-hmm.
And then where were you at before that, and where did you end up once you kind of hit that peak of working with them?
As far as
just like how many clients, or like just overall your business, was your like how much it grew, just.
Yeah, so I over like tripled my income when I hired a business coach. So I would highly recommend that. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And that's with anything, like with a fitness coach or a business coach or investing into a course like we were talking about earlier or whatever. And I truly believe, like, the only difference between you now and where you want to be in the future, or whoever you compare yourself to or, like, look up to or whatever, is a knowledge and skill gap. And the only way that you're going to fill that is by doing something about it and
getting more
trying
knowledge.
things and figuring out what works best for you and what doesn't. So it changed my entire mindset about myself as a person and as a coach and as an entrepreneur in general, working with them. Because not only do they have the knowledge to, like, you know, teach me back end things of how to. I was running a business already, but I was so stressed out and I was not where I wanted to be financially. I was trying to like after grad school, I didn't want to apply for jobs, and
you wanted to make it work.
Yes, I wanted to make it work, and that was my only job during grad school. I also made the conscious decision when I hired them, after about 2 months in, to quit my job, even though I wasn't ready for it. Like, I was not in a good financial position to quit my job at all, but I did because I knew, like, the way my mind works, I was like, I am not going to be able to or want to put my all into this unless it is my only option. Yeah. So that's what I did. I cut everything out and I made it my only option. I dove in and I frickin' hustled. And, like, I got a job at a gym in person, too, and, like, was doing that at the same time. So I was learning how to do other things that maybe didn't even pertain to me at all, but had to do with the industry at the same time, while I was working with Chris and Eric and building my online clientele so that I could eventually not be there in person, because I was making, like, nothing at the gym compared to what I was making on my own, right?
Never do, yeah.
So then I got into a position where I was able to leave that job. And, I mean, now I have 4 employees, if you include my accountant and my virtual assistant that does now. I'm hiring a new virtual assistant that starts next week that'll be doing, like, 20 hours a week for me versus 10 hours that my one was doing before. So my team is not super big, like, because I know where I want to be now, but, like, a year ago, Colette would be like, whoa, oh my gosh, I can't believe, like, you have employees, you have an assistant coach, what is going on? But my business tripled in income, and I just learned so many valuable things. Like, I could probably write a book about it, honestly. Yeah. Like, they're still so helpful. Like, Chris and Eric are the type of coaches that, like, you're always going to have in your back pocket, and they're always going to actually be there for you. Best investment I've made in my business thus far, aside from my, like, coaching with Dom, too. Like, I would say both of those coaching are top 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And like you said before, you don't know what you don't know. And it's like, you can't be expected to go crazy on stuff that you've never even done before. Exactly. Like, running a business and personal training being the fact that you obviously knew about fitness, but you didn't have a degree in it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, you still had to, like, learn on top of all that, like, the specifics of that, and then everything, and then how to run a business. And the whole charging, obviously, like, just like personal trainers do, they always undercharge like at the beginning, because
knowing your worth,
because you have, like, you think you kind of have to at some point, but, like, eventually you don't, and a lot of people stay in that point way too long, obviously. So no, that's cool.
Yeah, so that was, a big thing with Chris and Eric was finding my worth and looking at, like, what I really did have to offer, what interested me to learn more about, which, sparked me to invest in other things down the line, and how I could serve my clients in the best way and, like, who my ideal clients were. And, like, I was already educated on the basis of things when I was working with them and, like, had Seymour Fitness launched already. I don't know for how long, maybe, like, I think I, like, actually had Seymour Fitness for, like, 2 years, but it was something that I was doing while I was an undergrad, during school. And I remember one day, one day a long time ago, I was talking to my brother, and we were talking about my business, and I was like, yeah, like, I've just been able to make, like, $600, like, this last month. It's kind of cool, like, just a little side gig, whatever. And I had, like, I don't know, like, 15 or 20 clients. Like, that was a lot of clients, like, to be only making $600 a month. But, he cheered me on. He was like, that's so awesome. I'm so proud of you. But I didn't, like, I never knew that I could get to where I actually wanted to be. Yeah. Like, when I first started working with Chris and Eric, like, the big thing that people talk about in fitness coaching is making 10K a month. Like, that's what everybody talks about. I never thought that was possible for me. Yeah. Never. Ever. And I think I laughed in their faces when they, like, talked to me about it, and we talked about, like, recurring revenue and how to, like, really build up your business and your clientele and your revenue streams and keep it going into this, like, I think the exact quotes they used were, like, well-oiled machine or something that just, like, keeps running on its own. And then a big thing that people don't talk about, too, as much, or maybe they do, but I don't think people realize as much with a business, is that, like, every time you do something new, you're starting from zero. Like, you're starting from no knowledge, like, just kind of throwing a ball out there and seeing what happens. Yeah. And That's scary. Helps so much to have a business coach or somebody to give, like, reinstill that confidence in you to be like, no, you can do this. Like, you have to try new things to get to where you want to be. Yeah. Like, you can totally do this. And if it doesn't go the way you want to, like, troubleshoot why that happened. I think I'm, like, going all over the place with this, but that's how I feel with Chris and Eric, because like, there's just so much stuff that they did teach me and so many things that I could talk about that they've, given me confidence to just talk to other entrepreneurs about now and, like, and persuade them to invest in yourself and invest in your company. Otherwise, it's not going to grow, Yeah. And that looks different for everybody. Like, there's so many different ways you can do fitness coaching, right? Like, essentially, I don't want to say essentially we're all the same because that makes it sound bad, but essentially we all are, just depending on...
the same end goal is be healthier.
Right, exactly. But how you set that up and how much you want to work and how much money you want to make and what type of people you want to work with is all up to you. Yeah. And there is no, like, one path to success. Like, again, with this, it's not a one-size-fits-all. Like, they taught me that there were so many different ways to run my business, and the way that I was always looking at things, I never thought that making the money that I wanted to or needed to live was going to be possible with how I was coaching or, like, the level of attention that I wanted to give my clients, right? But it absolutely was. I just needed to know my worth and invest in more knowledge and get better with everything that I was doing to be able to reassess the value I'm giving, because like, what I charged a year ago isn't what I charge now, and it will probably continue to go up, because as I become a better coach, my clients see better results. Like, that's just how it works, you know. So
from, like, that transition, you obviously said it was stressful at the beginning, and, like, stuff was, like, just probably back end and just the consistency and you not knowing your worth, all that. What was the thing that caused you to, like, lose that amount of stress? Like, what was, like, once I figured this out, I was like, oh my God, this is so freaking easy. Or, well, a lot easier than it was.
Once I figured out that you're always stressed, it became super easy. I'm joking, but not joking, because honestly, like, I'm still stressed all the time. Like, I handle my stress very well now, and I have lots of different coping mechanisms I've learned from other business owners and just other things in life that work for me. But my biggest thing was realizing that, like, every level has a new devil. That's a famous quote I always use from Chris and Eric, too. Like, they said that all the time. And if you want to grow as a person or as a business, you're always going to be stressed in some way. But the stuff that stressed me out back then doesn't stress me out at all now.
Yeah, it's just overload.
Right. Like, now it's just like, okay, things are growing faster than I thought. What is my next step? Which is a great problem to have. But every level that you do grow, and that's why a lot of businesses fail, too, because they grow way faster than what they can maintain. So then they just crumble because they can't keep up with any of it, and they get burned out, and it's just
they can't promise what they're doing,
right?
What they want,
exactly. Yeah, you're making like promises that you can't keep. So really, it was just figuring out that like this is how it's going to be. I need to learn how to manage my stress. I need to learn how to not let overthinking or things get in my brain and in my way, because for me, a lot of what always stressed me out was like monthly income goals, or like trying to like hit a quota for myself per month, or like things like that, or
and when you're stressed about money at the beginning,
right,
it makes a difference. You like trying to making a living, but now if you're consistent being over the amount you need, then it's just like, okay, that whole thing is not, you don't have to stress about that anymore, and now all you gotta do is stress about is the next thing that you're gonna make more money with, or get more clients with, or maintenance. Right,
exactly. So I would say what the turning point for me was just realizing that like that every, and we mentioned this, we kind of talked about this earlier, and I might touch on it, but I think we got somewhere else, like how we were talking about every person like worries about things, like no matter what stage you're in. Like that was me, like seeing other people that were working with Chris and Eric that were farther along than where I was, that were worrying about the same things, or like had their own stressors and things. It inspired me to then have that realization that everybody worries about this stuff, no matter whether you're making $30,000 a month or $1,000 a month. Everybody's worrying about essentially the same thing. It's just how you handle it and how you react to it, whether you use it as like a fuel or something that like cripples you.
And you just
determines how it works out for you.
Yeah.
And so when I realized that, I was like, well, I can't ever let it cripple me. And I did have times in the beginning, like starting my business, where I was super depressed. Like I was very overwhelmed. I was stressed out. I was working all the time, not even necessarily with just that business, but I was trying to build that business on top of other jobs and school and everything else. And when you're doing those things, it can feel like a very lonely process, because like nobody else was building a business while we were in school. Maybe some other people were, but like it's just not common, right? So it can feel like a very...
And you're not going to be talking to them about it every day.
Exactly.
Because they're worried about their stuff, you're worried about yours.
Exactly. So it can feel like a very lonely process. So having them and all of the other coaches, because that was a great thing about working with Chris and Eric, was that there were other fitness coaches that were working with them, and I got to share that knowledge with them, and we got to brainstorm and talk about the same problems we were having and what was working well for us and what wasn't, so we could try different things and like problem solve like that. Like it was so easy. Not easy, like you still had to put the work in, but like so easy to feel supported with those things and not feel like you were alone, and like you're like, dang, I'm just like working so hard and nobody understands this, and people don't want to buy from me, and things aren't going the way that I want them to, and I'm not going to hit my income goal, and so-and-so didn't re-sign with me, and I'm a terrible coach, and I shouldn't be doing, like, all of those thoughts can flood if you don't have a way to just, like, shut them off. And if you don't shut them off, they're going to come back to get you. But
and it's like a therapy session, honestly, when you have other people to talk to, because then it's like, oh, yeah, I did that too. And then they're like, and then you're like, oh, I overreacted. Like if you just dealt, like, you had, or I love when other people come with, like, way, like, worse crap. Mm-hmm. When they just completely, like, you don't even know why they're still working on it. Like, you think they, like, should be going taking care of their family or something, like, their whole family's sake. Like, they got all this crap going on, they're still even trying. Yeah. It's just like, okay, like, calm down. Like, you got it. Like, there's way worse positions you could be in if you really think about it. And it's nice. It's not like nice to think that, but it always calms me down a little bit. Like this could be so much worse.
Exactly, and that just really like hit home for me because I had a situation just this last week like that. Like I'm obviously not gonna name names, but I have a super amazing friend in my life, like somebody I look up to so much, and they were messaging me the other day, and I remember messaging them last week about my life and being like, I'm overwhelmed and I feel like I'm not doing well with anything, and I'm trying, I've got all these tabs open in my head, and I'm trying to do da-da-da-da-da, I'm stressed, right? And they calmed me down and were like, hey, like, don't worry, it's all good, you've got this, like, everybody feels this way, whatever. This week, literally last night, they messaged me, same thing, like, I feel like I get caught up in this small town, like, I'm stressing out about life, da-da-da-da-da, and I said the same stuff that they said to me last week, and I was like, look, like you are inspired by me as a person, but last week I had the same exact thoughts that you are having now. Like, you've got to compare yourself to where you were before instead of where you want to be. If you're always looking at where you want to be, you're not going to get there. Yeah. Instead, you've got to look at where you were, and you've got to start acting like what you want to be. Like, act as if you're there already. And like, manifest it. And it will happen. But that brings me a lot of comfort, like being a business owner and just a regular person and human that feels emotions, knowing that every single person, regardless of how successful they are to you or inspiring they are to you or how much you look up to them, whatever, every single person has the same like self-doubting, limiting beliefs that you do. They're just thinking about it in a different way, right? Yeah. Like, but they've had them. We all have them. Sure. So that is always comforting to me whenever I get too overwhelmed with that stuff. Like, and what I will always do is go like watch an interview with somebody like that. Like, prep has been hard. It's been awful. Every time I get on the elliptical, I feel like I'd rather die. Honestly, like it's so annoying. But something that's helped me out is watching Chris Bumstead interviews, watching Dana Lynn Bailey interview, like things where they're vulnerable and they talk about like, this is hard, you know, like I worry about this and I went through this, and then you realize like your situation could be worse, like you said, or it's okay that because other people feel this too, like something about that validates it for you that makes it easier for you to get through that, and that has helped me a lot with all of this stuff because the life that I live right now in the stage of life that I'm in is a very lonely life. Like prep, building a business, living alone. Like there's just a lot of, you know, and if I don't do those things for myself and have like, I don't know, schedule social things
it's just healthy for you.
Be around people that I know are going to uplift me in that way, I would be crippled and completely useless too. Just like other people else that fall into depression, right? Exactly. Like, it would be the same thing. And I have been there before. But, you know, I know the things that get me out of there and that really, really inspire me to move forward. And I know how to, like, I don't know.
Dig out of it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've talked about this with a couple other people, too. It's just, like, when you have the depression, it was one definition that someone gave me is, like, when you're that depressed, you're willing to die, you won't do anything. And in my head, I was sitting there and I was like, well, what if you have to go to work in the morning? Mm-hmm. And they're like, what if you'd rather die? And I'm like, oh. Well, I was like, oh, yeah, okay. Well, then work doesn't fucking, like, that doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
You know what I mean? I'm sitting there I'm like, I've never thought of it. Yeah, I've never thought of it that way, I guess. Because I was like, I'm not, like, you know, I've never had that inclination. So I was like, well, I got to keep a job. I got stuff to pay for. Right. I got to kind of go to work.
Exactly.
So, but, like, yeah, that whole, like, mind shift and being able to, like, if you're in that, there's got to be, like, it's either, at that point, it's one decision or the other. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And there's got to be something that, like, you actually enjoy to pull you out of it. And nothing is, like, more beneficial for longevity and, like, you just living, in my opinion, than just going to the gym. Regardless of what you do. Yeah. I think it's just the environment and, like, I also am not a huge fan of working out at home. I mean, I get it. It's like the whole convenience.
Yeah.
But like, there's so much more that goes into being like in a gym community, and like when you walk through a gym, especially if you have your times, because then everyone else has their times.
Right.
So then you meet all the people at your time,
mm-hmm.
and you're just chill with all of them, especially in the morning. You walk in, and I'm just like, hey, like I don't know any of these people's names whatsoever, but I have to like acknowledge them when I walk in the door because there's only like 10 of us in this gym. I'm not just gonna ignore all of you as I walk past you.
At the same time, do you ever feel like, or no, maybe not, because you said you always go to the gym at the same time. I go to the gym at random times, like throughout the day, and I feel like sometimes I'll see the same people. I'm like, aren't you a morning person? I'm like, aren't you not supposed to be here like right now? What the heck? Like I'll see the same crowd of people different times of the day, and I'm like, what in the world?
And then you start to figure out who are the people that go twice.
Yes.
Because I definitely have days where I go twice, and it's funny that there's other people that also go twice, and they like literally call you out on it. It's like, you fucker, like
didn't I see you here earlier?
Yeah, didn't I see you here earlier? Like, don't come at me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a PT guy that literally the reason I see him twice though is because he personal trains in the morning,
mm-hmm.
and then he lifts at night. So if I ever go lift at night, he's like, why are you doing it twice? And he just immediately calls me out. But back to bodybuilding. So I lift at Evolution in Mount Pleasant. Yep. And I don't know if you know anyone there, but that was probably...
I think Michaela Paramaki goes there, doesn't she?
Yes.
Does she still? Yes.
I don't know if, like, she does still... Oh, yeah, she does, for sure. Yeah, and she's obviously...
She's awesome.
She's jacked.
Love her.
Jacked.
She's so cool.
Yes. And she does the whole... And it's crazy. Her and there's another girl that I think work at, like, GNC. Her name's Brooke or something. But she's PT. Michaela, right? I'm pretty sure she's PT.
Yep,
and the other girl's nutrition. But I never really understood this. And I also never saw anyone do it as well or, like, as consistency. But, like, the whole diet thing, like, and girls, obviously, because, like, they'll put on... Like, when you see a girl that actually knows how to lift and they actually... eat like a lifter, you will notice they will get bigger. Like,
oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not it's not a slight, but like you can clearly and then you also can clearly tell when they're on a cut. Like it's crazy, and actually seeing girls do it like right, and like there's a period and then there's like there's obviously phases. It's not just like they stay in it. But they have their phases, and it's like I cannot control my diet that well, and I find that to be crazy.
It's hard, and it takes some discipline. Like it's hard, but it's not. Like once you get it, you get it.
Once you're committed, you don't do something for a month when your goal is 3 months of doing it and then give up. You're already like, I already did this really well for a month. Mm-hmm. Like, I might as well do it the next 2. Yeah. And the few times that I have been good with my diet, it has been in that scenario. Like, I have done it. I told myself I was going to do it for 2 months, but the instant that 2 months hit, I didn't, like, fall off horribly, but I definitely wasn't, like, I mean, I was meal prepping, like, there's a couple guys there that do the whole physique thing, too. It's Ben and then Sam. But I took his diet. He told me what to eat, like what he would eat, all that stuff. And I did that. It was like the whole 5 meals, 130 grams of carbs, 130 or 140 grams of protein. And then he said, if it's vegetables or anything else, you can eat as much as you want. Just fill yourself up. Don't matter as long as you're hitting that. Yeah. And I was hitting that. And he literally, what also blew my mind is that he could tell me when I was going to lose weight, when I was going to gain weight. He told me by the weeks. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, and I would literally go on the scale and then I would text him, or he would text me before I got on the scale. And he'd be like, you should be like 2 pounds heavier today. And then I would get on the scale 2 pounds. I'm like, you motherfucker.
How'd you do that?
How'd you know that? And then the only thing that he told me that I was like really happy about is that I quit gaining weight because at the initial, he's like, you're going to gain weight. He's like, with how much you're eating, your body's not going to be used to it. You're going to gain weight. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, it's probably going to last like 3 or 4 weeks, maybe, right around there. And in like 2 weeks, I quit gaining weight. He's like, your diet's better than the vast majority of people that I've worked with. So that's cool. Yeah. And then we settled there. And once I settled in a weight, it was crazy that how settled, like if you know your diet, if you know how many grams of protein you're eating and you know how many calories you're eating, you are going to get to a weight eventually.
Yep.
And you're going to just stick there. It's going to be, you'll understand what's going in and what's going out.
It's finding your maintenance calories, which people never do.
And that was, exactly, that was the first time I've ever done it, and I was 22, and I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, if I find this, then if I want to gain weight, just eat, like, add 10 grams to my protein or whatever. Like, I can control that.
And your maintenance calories, like, they can go up and down, too, depending on how your metabolism, like, but if you do that long term, your maintenance calories are going to go up because your metabolism is going to be rocking. So
so then you'll have to eat more. But okay, in that sense, if you're anyone that likes to lift, all of a sudden your calorie intake, you can eat more and still look the same.
Or look better.
Oh, isn't that like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what everyone wants, but they don't realize that's the first step. You can do it.
Yep. I know, like, most people are always, like, you know, their thing, when people look at me with my prep and stuff, like, people will always be like, oh, I could never just, like, eat that, or I could never, like, only eat 1,200 calories a day, and I'm like, I literally don't eat 1,200 calories a day right now, and I'm cutting for a show. Like, my lowest days are 1,400, which is really low, but, like, I'm less than 4 weeks out right now. Like, that's to be expected. So it's like I have clients eating less than like 1,800 calories unless they just can't eat, and I'm trying to get them to eat more, right? Yeah. Like, then I'll set their goals lower to make it actually achievable for them. But like, when people say like I could never say no to carbs, or I could never like diet or do that, it's like, you do not understand how much freedom you can have with food and still eat well. Yeah. Like, I eat, when I am bulking, I eat whatever the hell I want. And I hit my macros every day.
And like, there might
be some days where like I'm a little over on fat and carbs, just depending, like a rare occasion. Like, if I haven't had fast food and I don't even know how long now, but there are some days where I'll be like, I want some feel good food, and I'll go, and like, if I go do that, sure, maybe I'll be over in some days, but like, I hit my protein goal. I had room for that. And guess what? I didn't like gain all this weight or become fat because I went to Wendy's and got a Baconator. Like, that's not how that works.
Yeah. It's when you go to Wendy's and get a Baconator every day.
Exactly.
That's what will do it to you.
Right. Yeah. And even, like, you know, like, you could even, is this good for you long term? No. But you could go to Wendy's and get a Baconator every single day and hit the rest of your macro goals and still not gain weight. You literally could. You could have a Baconator every single day.
As long as you knew what else you're going to eat the rest of the day.
Right. I wouldn't recommend that long term for, like, your overall health. But as far as, like, your weight and what is happening on the scale, you could eat a Baconator every day.
Okay.
And not lose weight.
I got a question, because I have women in my life, and I love to argue this. The whole, like, calories in, calories out. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now, in your opinion, do women have a certain hormone or something that makes that not true?
No, nobody has that. No.
Thank you.
That is how it works for every human.
That's my. There's always, like, that was like my mom or my mom's friends. They'll be like, "Well, we're just women and we have like different hormones than you, so it's harder for us to lose weight." And
it is harder. It can be harder for women to lose weight than men, but the concept is still the same.
Okay. Fair. Yes. See? I'm just going to show them.
But let's say, for example, if we're using like your mom as an example, let's say your mom is eating in a caloric deficit, but she's not losing weight, right? Let's say that's the issue. Something else is going on internally, right? Like she's resistant to something, or maybe common things for that are PCOS, like getting super inflamed to carbs and gluten or dairy, or insulin resistance, like I mentioned, where certain high, a lot of simple carbs, or carbs that are high in FODMAP, which is just meaning like less grainy, right? Or less like actual good for your digestion is a simpler way to put it. can really, really inflame you and cause you to gain weight. Or she could be extremely estrogen dominant and have like no progesterone coming in, and that can cause you to have issues with losing weight and hit a plateau. So like there are things that could be going on within anybody's body to make that not true. But if you know that you're eating in a caloric deficit and not losing weight, and sometimes too, keep in mind, like we can eat in too much of a caloric deficit. Like if you're extremely under-eating, then you're putting your body in starvation mode, and then it saves everything that you put in. So those are like the scenarios where it wouldn't be true that you like should be losing weight in a caloric deficit, but that's not most people. And if you do have those things going on, you would be able to tell, like there'd be something else going on, right? Or, and most times when people try to lose weight or like say that it doesn't work for them, they've never tracked their food in their life, so they have no idea. Like 9 times out of 10, and people are like, I've started to like eat better and blah, 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 and I've tried all this, but it hasn't been working. The first question I ask is, have you ever tracked your food? Yeah. And mostly they're like, no. And I was like, okay, well then you actually have no idea what you're eating. Yeah. Like, you have no clue.
My buddy, I was joking with him about portion control and everything, and I was like, do you know how much protein, like, in a meal, like, if you were to do this, like, how much, like, 6 ounces is? He's like, yeah, about 4 breasts. And I was like, 4 breasts? I was like, what is 4 breasts to you?
He's like,
and I'm like, no.
I was like, more than 6 ounces, I feel like.
I was like, that's so much more, dude. Like, I was like, he's like, no. And I was like, and first of all, this kid doesn't eat anyway. So for him to be like 4 chicken breasts is a small meal is like, bro, like that's because you're starving every time you do eat, and 4 fills you up because you haven't ate in like a day or 2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, no crap that feels light to you.
Yeah, and that's what people like. Oftentimes when I talk about undereating, people are like, well, I'm just not hungry. And I'm like, okay, well that's because our body adapts. Yeah, so your body's been like, okay, this person's starving me all the time, so we're just going to stop asking for food and, like, try to survive off of something else we're getting.
Exactly.
Which is nothing, you know? So, like, and every time, it always surprises clients when I, like, get them to eat more food. They're like, wow, I, like, woke up hungry this morning. I'm like, yeah. Like, because you actually ate something, and, like, your body's used to that food.
You don't gain that much weight when you start, like, I mean, you'll have a little spike, but like what's the down. 5 pounds, 10 pounds that you've already been fluctuating every other week before that?
Exactly.
Just now because you're eating, you're gonna blame it on that. It's like, no, you just like give it a second.
And a lot of times too, like in the beginning, people can be really inflamed, like if they're not used to doing any exercise or it's a new exercise, right? So like if your water retention is super high, like week 1, and then we go through a phase where we lose all that water weight, like going through that. So the first couple weeks of like looking at how your weight is fluctuating within any program is not really going to give you a good idea of how things are going. Like it's by week 3 that your body should be like fully adjusted. Yes, and that's what I always tell people too. But that's another thing people get too caught up in is like wanting to see things happen way faster than it's possible. And I'm like, no. Like that's not, no. And like you mentioned, like a lot of females specifically, just because they really don't look into this stuff, I feel like it's more of like a younger male thing to look into the gym bro stuff versus female.
For sure.
But they don't like properly eat and realize that like if you want to have that toned look or build muscle or the look that everybody wants, right? Like you want the muscles, the tone, you need to build muscle first, which means eating more food and maybe being a little uncomfortable with that scale number for just a little bit of time before you get to the phase of where you're okay to cut. Because a lot of people, too, when they come to me and they're like, I want to lose weight, I want to cut, I'm like, have you even been eating at your maintenance calories? Like, if you've been eating 1,200 calories, there's no way I'm going to put you on a cut. But you're probably still going to see weight loss from me putting you on a reverse diet.
Yeah.
But, like, that's what people don't understand is that, like, they just think they can go into this cut whenever. But it's our body, like, our body doesn't work like that, and we've got to treat it with care, and you've got to make sure it's nourished and replenished before you put it through extra stressors or things that you're doing too. And I don't know. I think that people just think you can just do something for like a month or 2 and completely change the way that you look, but it takes time, and the more you do it, the easier it gets for you, and it just becomes a habit. It really does. Like it's just a part of your lifestyle.
So, lifting journey. how often did you go on and off of lifting at the beginning?
Oh, I am not. I am.
Or have you been consistent?
I have always been consistent. Looking back at the last 8 years that I've been consistently lifting, I would say I've maybe only taken I remember taking 2 months off after a bunch of stuff went on in my life, and I just had a really deep depression, and that was in 2020 when everybody was depressed. I feel like at some point in time during the year. But so I took 2 months off at that time, I remember, and I've occasionally taken weeks off or things for vacations or whatever, things like that. But other than that, I have never consistently been out of the gym.
That's crazy.
Ever.
Since kid-ish.
Yeah, since I was 14, 15 years old.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But I truly just enjoy it. I don't know where it came from. There are other people that are involved in fitness in my family, but it wasn't something that I grew up around. It's not my mom worked out all the time or my dad or whatever. And there weren't a lot of I didn't look up to a lot of family athletes either. It was just something I always did. I have always liked to be a busy person and fill my plate with things. And before I got into organizations or clubs or programs or other things like that, it was sports for me. I wanted to do every sport, and I wanted to be in the gym, and I have always been a super friendly person, meeting new people, and I don't know, it's just always been fun for me, and I've always liked to be strong. I just have always wanted to be strong and lift heavy weight, and I don't know, that's just always something I've held a lot of value in with myself. But that's also something I have worked on in the last year of getting away from, is that I'm not only a weightlifter. My only identity is not a gym gal. There's more to that's not my whole life, and that's not the only way that I should or that people should manage their emotions or manage things in their life, or you shouldn't be so obsessed with anything to the point that it's all, in my opinion, to where it controls. If you have a big goal, you think we're talking about bodybuilding, so think about the Olympia. People talk about how obsessed and stuff you need to be with it. That's, different, but that isn't to an extreme. The people that are the winners of the Olympia, that is their life. Their entire life and everything is obsessed around that. That's not where I see myself long term. I see myself always having somewhat of a balance with it. Right now, this is fine. This is my first prep, but I can tell you right now, I wouldn't want to be doing what I'm doing now for the rest of my life or year round. Absolutely not.
No. Just the diet, just the overall effort, having to put that much cardio in. I've seen the guys at my gym do it, because one of them wants to be Mr. Olympia. I podcasted with him too. He's legitimate. That he's this is my only goal. I have a 5-year plan, and by the 5th year, I want to be qualifying for Mr. Olympia. Yeah. And he had a coach. He has a original coach. His first one was in Mr. Olympia with Arnold and stuff. So he's dude, that guy was sitting there saying, "Hey, you can do this." So the kid immediately was just "Screw it, I'm committed." And the kid is absolutely massive. I think he's 22. I think he's getting ready for his next show, and I'm pretty sure he's sitting around 210, 220. Yeah. And it's not even. It's if you're already that big in competing, you're already 10, 11% body fat.
Yeah, he's probably 240 in his bulk, 250.
Exactly. He's absolutely, and they're sitting there, and I've never been the type to train like that. When it comes to being heavy and stuff, I really don't care about weight, as long as I'm doing enough weight to be enjoy it and move. But he throws around 4 plates on a bent over row, and I'm sitting here and I'm I would never ever in my life plan on doing that, but that is so freaking cool.
Yeah, right.
He just picks it up, and I'm I can't pick it up, let alone row it. And it's just so cool to see him and a couple other guys over the 2-3 years that they've been in the gym. I used to see him when he rode 1 plate. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right,
that's
exactly.
a huge difference.
The growth. Yeah.
It's so fun to see that, and talk to him about how I mean, obviously is this your first one? The first ever competition?
Yep.
So, like, you've probably never dieted this hard before in your life.
No, like this is...
No one ever... Well, first of all,
I'm in the best shape of my life right now. Like, as far as internally, I don't know, because obviously, like, I'm not eating a bunch of food, and this is bad to do long term. Like, I feel I will be fine. I have a good coach, and I'm monitoring everything very well.
Yeah.
But, like, this is... And I've said it a couple times the last couple of weeks because it's really starting to get tough. This is the hardest I've worked for anything, like mentally and physically in my entire life. Like, the only other thing that comes close mentally is maybe, like, my graduate degree. Like, mentally, the brain power. But, like...
2-year master's in comparison. Yeah.
Like, you combine the mental and the physical drain that you go through during prep. And I journal every morning. And, like, I have... started out like every journal entry with like I have no idea how I'm doing what I'm doing right now in life. Like I have no idea how I'm balancing all these things or how I'm making it work. But it is like I have to be very routine right now and I have to plan things around my training and my show stuff. And that's not for me long term, at least not like at this stage in my life when I'm trying to still like experience life and do things kind of young, you know. But like you said, like it's really inspiring to see people that do and that make that
as a fitness coach. As a fitness coach, I think it adds another layer to like just to have those pictures and to have the proof that you did it.
Oh yeah.
Because like you see every 99% of the world, all your clients, they can't do nothing. Like they came to you because they don't know how to do their diet.
Exactly.
Let alone watch you restrict yourself, go up, down, sideways, whatever, to get to one singular goal where all you do is pose on a stage for a couple hours. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, risk to reward, no one sees that. No one understands that. But it's freaking crazy because when you do see yourself, it's like, okay, I mean, that's what, 6, I don't know how long your thing was, but like, how long your prep was, but like, that's 8, 9, I mean, or 8 years if you're going to really consider all your training. Yeah. But like, that's 8 years of training all into one moment. Like that's the point. Like
exactly.
There's no, it's just for me. It doesn't matter for anyone else.
Right. And that was a reason like I wanted to do this show for me, mainly to see like what I have been building over the last 8 years. But there was some part of me that wanted to do it for my coaching experience too, to bring another level of intensity to my clients and for them to see me go through that. Because yes, like I've always been somebody, here's the thing, like I've always been somebody that pays attention to their food, does all the stuff in the gym. Like, it's never been a challenge for me to do those things. So I felt like this has really made me a better coach because I can relate to some of my clients' challenges more. Like when they're actually craving things or like really hungry or like, you know, things like that if it's happening.
You're doing it to yourself.
Exactly, because I'm going through a much more extreme version of it. So I've been able to relate to them better and it's inspired them more, I think, to work harder with certain things that they're doing. Like my cardio right now, I am burning, I have 5 days a week right now that I'm burning 650 calories of cardio on top of my 5 lifts a week that I'm doing. Yeah. So that's a shit ton of cardio. My clients, like the most cardio I don't coach competition clients. I only coach lifestyle clients as a precursor. So I don't have anybody in prep or anything like that. But the only, like the highest cardio I have any of my clients on is like maybe 1,500 a week. Okay, so that would be like 3 500 calorie sessions or however you want to break it up, right? However often. But when my clients have like heard me talking about cardio recently, I do over double of the cardio that they do, that any of them do. Yeah. Right now, they're like, oh my gosh, you're doing that? Like, I'm never going to complain about my cardio again. Like, I'm going to get this done. Like, if you can do that, I can do this. Like, and it inspires them to see how hard I really am working and how much I'm still able to manage the other things that I'm doing too, have like a job. Manage them, have a job. Yeah, and right. That's. I think the prep, when it comes to prep and comes to bodybuilding, I think that like now that I know what people do, like you always watch it, but you always kind of have that negative connotation to that because you're like, oh, they just get really big and then they starve themselves for the last little bit. Like, you know what I mean? No, I was like, well, if you do that, then like there's a lot more health and you know what I mean, like.
a lot of people would be dropping like flies if that's what they were doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't, and they're already, like, some people, the way they do it isn't as well as having a coach and stuff like that, and they still put themselves in mildly bad predicaments because they have nothing, and they're, like, gone, and they're, like, their face, I don't know what it is, but, like, it's crazy.
I think, and this is my, like, personal opinion, all power to you if you want to try it, but in my opinion, for your own health, I think it is extremely dumb for anyone to ever do a competition without a coach.
Yeah.
Ever. Like, maybe if you've done it, like, with a coach multiple times and you want to try, like, one on your own, great. I don't know why you would ever want to do that because there's so much to manage, and it just makes it so much easier with a coach. But, like, I really think, like, if you're going to put your body... Spend the money to do all of that in the first place. Put your body through all of that and do the whole thing to do a show. Why wouldn't you want to be set up like as best as possible and not ruin your health long term? Yeah. Because there's so many ways, like you said, that you can do that. Like everybody does prep differently. There are right and wrong ways to do it, but there's a lot of right ways to do it, right?
Yep.
So, I think that is a common, like, bad taste that people have in their mouth when it comes to bodybuilding. It's, like, how people get there, but they don't see the behind-the-scenes when it's done correctly and how much work really does go into it and how conscious you have to be of literally everything. Like, you just have to say no to a lot of things, and it's a lot of discipline, you know, to do that. Like, I'm going on a family vacation this next week. I've got to freaking pay, like, $15 a day to use this stupid gym that's up north, and it's, like, 30 minutes away from where we're staying. It's the only one up there. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it all because I have to. And also, like, there are certain things that my, like, cousin called me today, and he's like, do you want to go, like, fishing, like, this day on the whatever? And I'm like, probably won't be able to because in the morning I'm going to go to the gym and make sure all my stuff's done so that I can hang out with the fam for the rest of the day. Or, like, I'm going to be cooking my food or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, it's a lot of discipline and
it's a lot of saying, I think the hardest part about that, too, is when you have a family that doesn't understand the situation.
Oh, yeah. That makes it so much worse. Like, some of my family members are good about it, but there are a lot of them...
piece of cake.
Yeah, there are a lot of family members that make this extremely hard. Like, they just... And not only to the point... It doesn't even bother me when people, like, offer me things. Like, if they're like, oh, would you like this? Or whatever. Which this sounds bad. Like, it bothers me when people, like, ask questions about it, but they didn't care to, like, ask about it before. Like, they have never, like, asked me about health stuff before, but now they're like... Oh, isn't it, like, super hard to not eat anything that you enjoy or, like, to not have any ice cream or, like questions like that?
Chicken and rice?
Yeah, or, like, if I warm up my meal and they're like, that looks good when, like, they're eating, like, pizza or something. And I'm
it's
like...
It's just the side comments.
And I'm like, you know, you don't need to do that. Like, I'm not sitting there and being like, oh, I bet that greasy, fatty pizza tastes so good to you. Like... while I'm enjoying my healthy like we don't do it, so like don't do. And same thing with like comments that people make on your body too. Like a lot of people have obviously been really supportive because like in a humble way, I look good, whatever, like people are like, you look great, but there are some family members and people that have been like,
you look skinny,
you look really skinny, or like oh, that's kind of crazy. Like you can tell they want to say you look gross, but like they're saying like you look crazy or like really weird how that does that or whatever. Just or like you look
being vascular.
You look great, but you look better like with a few more pounds on you or whatever. Like you're too skinny. And I'm like,
we all know.
Okay, it's great. Thanks for your opinion. Like, but like I've been working at this for how many weeks and. You know, I don't make comments on you. Be like, oh, you look great, but you could look a little bit better if you just, like, shut off 15 pounds. Like, I would never say that to somebody. So why would you ever say the reverse? Like, you're looking really skinny or, like, what? Yeah, just shut your mouth.
Like, that's all, People don't have the negative connotation to being too skinny, though. So, like, you know what I mean? It's polite to say, oh, you're too skinny. It's like, I don't know.
Right, but it's like people don't think of it as being a negative thing, but to somebody that has maybe had an eating disorder or struggle with body dysmorphia
Yeah.
or like literally whatever the plethora of reasons that you could be self-conscious about your body for, it matters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, I don't know, I think people like that, the comments haven't bothered me too much, but those are the ones that have stuck out to me that have like bothered me the most. But I'm also like in a very good mental place to where I don't let things bother me. And if you're not in a good mental place before you try to prep for a show, good luck, because there's almost nothing harder than like going through a show prep, at least in my opinion so far. Like it's just rough. It's rough out here in these streets.
No, it makes sense. And yeah, I think overall just the fact that you are dieting and you're going through it and then people are like rubbing it in your face, like you're dieting too well.
Yeah, and it's
that's
like,
the,
okay,
like, that's
this is
the,
already
literally
so
the goal.
hard.
It's literally the goal. Like that's the plan. That was never not the plan. That's how these work. So,
like I don't get why.
Know that?
I don't get why instead of people like commenting on that, I don't get why they don't just say like, "I'm really proud of you" or something like that, or like
you look really because
yeah.
when you shed that weight, that muscle that shows through, that like you have nothing. So now if you have no muscle and nothing, there's nothing there.
Exactly.
Like the reason that you still look functional is because you have muscle on your body, like way more than the average person. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because a lot of girls that were whatever your pre-weight was, if you like, you know what I mean? If they same girls at your weight got down to what you're at now, I guarantee you they wouldn't even be healthy enough to be there.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like you literally couldn't get to this point without needing an IV.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just not possible.
And that's, you can, I am to the point where I can tell, like, when I look at somebody, like, even if they're not fully leaned out, like, I can tell the difference between muscle and fat, and, like, I'll straight up tell somebody, like, if they want, you know, the toned look or are thinking about a show, like, I've had people before, they're like, maybe I'd want to do a show in, like, a year.
Start eating.
Yeah, I'll be like, you gotta build this, and that. Like, you've got no biceps, no back, like, no, whatever. Also, you've got to build these up.
And when it comes to your posing and stuff, I used to go in there with those guys and watch them do it. And it's nuts because they'll pick out the fucking one little back muscle that's not big enough. Yeah. And it's like, how though? Like, and then they're talking about how symmetrical you are. And I'm like, I mean, I get it. Like, I can look at you and kind of see symmetry. But you guys are out here like, no, you're a little off here. I'm like, how, like, how many eyes have you looked at? Like, you definitely have to learn that type of look. Mm-hmm. Like there's a physique look apparently, there's a beach body look, there's a bunch of different looks, and if you have no idea and all you think is they're lean and strong, like no, there's completely different like anthropometrics, like measurements, like we want shoulders to be this wide, we want like the ratios to be like this. And it's just like you don't even understand that all you see is dudes on like posing on stage with tans and Speedos. Oh yeah. And they don't even know like he specifically did shoulders for like 3 months because he was weak as shit.
Right. You know exactly. What I mean? Like that's what I like. I compete in physique. I would love to be a wellness competitor. Like everybody wants to be a wellness competitor. I feel like all the girls, because they're big glutes, big quads, big legs. Like that's it. But I was talking to my coach about it, and he was like, you would have to stop training your upper body for a year if you wanted to be a wellness competitor and do like 4 leg days a week.
It makes, I mean, there's difference. Yeah, like you compete
it's just
in a
not my
specific
build for my
style,
body, you know. And same thing, like I could never compete in bikini unless I literally stopped training everything for like 3 years probably, because there's just a lot less muscle definition in bikini. Like that's not the goal of that. I'm in the most muscular female division besides open bodybuilding. Like I'm not female bodybuilding, but I'm women's physique, which is figures pretty muscular too, but they come in less conditioned than physique. So I would call physique the most muscular women division aside from bodybuilding, like I said. But there's different body styles for different divisions, and if I were like, I look really great, but if I were to compete in wellness, I would probably lose the category for sure. Depending on who's competing against me, I would lose.
Because you're not in, like, you don't fit the category.
Right. That my upper body is too muscular for wellness, and my lower body is not muscular enough. Like, you see people, like, me saying that, people would be like, oh my God, like, how? Your quads, like, this, not big enough.
you're
not big enough.
Yeah.
Like, it's not there, you know?
And it's crazy, too, because I went to one of the shows for that kid, and just to see the range, because there was him, another guy, and then, like, a third guy, but even the third guy was, like, clearly, like, kind of not in the race, but that third guy was just well above the other four, because the other four were like that. They just weren't, you could tell they're just not ready.
No.
And they just come in and they just do it, and it's like, I mean, I get that you want to probably just be in a show, and you want to say you're in a show, and you wanted to, like, bring your best, and that was your best. Cool. But, like, if you're actually competing, you can look around the room and who, like, just hours of time put in, this guy over here already beat you.
Yep.
By a long shot.
Yep.
And but it's also cool to see. It's like, and then the whole posing, and then also seeing, like, the different weight divisions and how it all works, and, like, because it confused the hell out of me when I went to a first show, because I was like, all the guys posed at the end together, and then they picked one, but I was like, they didn't pose all together at the beginning because it's all the different weight classes, and then all the weight classes winners compete against each other at the end, and it's like, you feel like the heavyweight would just have the advantage, no matter what in that scenario. So I was like, how does the heavyweight just always win that, if they're even equal? Like,
it depends on what, like, division you're in, because like, for a lot of I don't know all of how the guys divisions works, but I know, like, for some divisions they have weight caps and some they don't. Yeah. So, like, if you were at your weight cap, like, it doesn't mean that you would win. It's more about how you're, like, if you're, like, the highest of your weight cap and you're the heaviest one up there, it doesn't always necessarily mean that you're going to win. No. Because it's just about how it's the symmetry matters, like you mentioned. Somebody, like, you might have really great everything, but somebody's, like, quads just might outshine yours, and that puts them ahead of you, that's regardless. Crazy. So it's not always the case, but it's usually a good sign to be at the top of your weight cap, like, in your division. Yeah. Because then because that means you've got, like, the most amount of muscle out of everybody there. And as long as you depending on your height too, right? Because but yeah, that's usually a good sign. Yeah. But yeah, the one dude that was the heavyweight, he definitely didn't have the physique, I would say, like the proportions, but he was still just so absolutely jacked and like lean. I was like, you don't look tight, but you're still so strong, and you're still 210 pounds. Right. So you're probably gonna win. You know what I mean? It's just how it went. Because my friend got second that time, but it was like, if you were to compare looks, he had a better look. Yeah. But the other guy was just 20 pounds heavier and stronger, and, like, it's just definition. Right. It was so hard. It's just so hard. And sometime, what did he compete in? What category? Physique. Physique. Yeah. Okay, so for physique, they're gonna look at your symmetry too, but they're also gonna look at, like, how much muscle you actually have. Yeah. Yeah. And when you have 20 pounds on a guy, you're on a higher weight class. That's a lot to have on some. Yeah. Exactly, and you're still the same lean, you know, like, you're still at, like, 5 or 4 or whatever it is. Yeah, that's a lot of muscle. It's, like, unbelievable. Like, I don't even know how you I know how you get to that point, but, like, it's crazy how, like, you can do that to yourself. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm excited for my next show, just to be able to see, like, the growth. Yeah, like, where I end up at my leanest now and where I'll end up at my leanest then, because that will tell me how much muscle I've grown in that time. You know? And actually being able to count your calories and macros and all that goes into it. And the consistency of doing it every day instead of only doing it when you're prepping. Right. Because if you just immediately do your show, obviously you're going to binge a little bit just because it's fun and you need the calories and you haven't ate in forever. Right. But, like, after that, you go right back to tracking my stuff. Right back to the normal grind. But it's not nearly, if anything, like, the food tracking and stuff is harder not on prep because I'm eating way more food. So it's just harder to, like, eat all of that food per day. Yeah, like, I'm a very busy person, and, like, it's been, in that aspect, it's been really nice with prep to not have as much food to eat, because literally, like, I only have 4 meals a day, and they're super small, And, like, only one of them is one that two of them are ones that I have to cook now, but I meal prep my burgers all ahead of time, so it's literally just a microwave thing. But the other one is eggs, which take, 5 minutes on the stove, if that. So it's, like, it's just so easy to get in all my food. And now, like, I don't know, I think it'll be hard for me to transition to eating more food again because I'm already, used to I'm hungry, but I've adapted to, like, fasting. Like, I don't eat until, like, 12 or 1 o'clock now because I only have 1,400 calories last me all day. And I am busy doing shit until 8:30 to 9 p.m. at night, so I want to try to preserve those calories as much as possible.
For sure. I mean, that's the easiest way to make it last.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And, I mean, some people, you just don't exactly need it in the morning. It just doesn't, like, there's no appetite when you don't have the appetite in the morning.
Right.
You can kind of just chill on it. See, my problem is I eat too late in the night. That's
what do you mean?
Like, I eat right before I go to bed.
Why is that a problem, though?
Because it's I guess if we're going to get technical. Yeah, I mean, it's a problem just because it's the last crappy stuff.
Is it a problem for your schedule? Is it, or, like, a problem with...
It's probably just a problem for diet, like, because what I eat right before I go to bed is not what I should eat.
So you just, I
just snack right before I go to bed, or I'll eat, or what's really bad is I'll eat, I don't even know if it's really bad, but it's like, I'll eat, like, whatever the lunch or the dinner was, like, I'll just eat a second dinner right before I go to bed, just because I'm hungry and, like,
Do you track your macros right now?
No, I do not. No.
Put you on the spot.
Exactly. No, I do not. Yeah.
Because if you are, like, if you're hitting your macros for the day and, like, you're, loading a bunch of it at night, it's not, there's not a problem to that. Like, that often happens to me when I'm, like, in my bulk season because I just have a lot of food to eat. And I'm least busy from, like, 8 until I go to bed because I'm busy all day. Yeah. So, like, I'll sit and watch whatever show and just, like, eat for 2 hours continuously if I need it. Like, if I'm like, frick, I've got all these carbs to eat and all this stuff to do, like, I guess I better get eaten. I'll just shovel it all in. But I try not to do that to myself just because I like to have my stuff done throughout the day. So, like, if I can, like, when I'm bulking, I start my day with a smoothie every day that's 800 calories. So, like...
Right off the gate.
Yeah, so that's, like... And it's, like, 75 grams of protein. So it's, like, it sets me off for a good tone for the day. And I know I'm going to hit my protein goal if I have my smoothie in the morning.
Yeah.
So,
that's a big smoothie.
It's easy to do in a smoothie. Yeah. Easy to do. You do 2 scoops of protein, like any protein powder. And then Okio's yogurt, I do the one that's 23 grams of protein, like the tub. Fairlife milk, a cup of it. And then whatever fruit you want. I usually do, like, strawberries and bananas because I am basic and I can eat the same thing my whole life and not get tired of it, honestly. And then if you use actual peanut butter, it's a lot more calories than if you do PB Fit. Yeah. Just depends on if you have any of your macros. When I'm bulking, I do. I've got plenty of fat that I'm trying to hit for the day, so I'll use actual peanut butter. And then oats. And that'll get you 800 calories, a lot of carbs, lots of protein, good amount of fat to start the day. And that, like, saves me when I am bulking because I'm not a big, like, breakfast person in general. Like, I'm not going to sit. When I get up early, because I get up at, like, 5 o'clock every day. I'm not going to eat a huge meal.
Yeah. To eat that many calories in a food would be hard as shit.
So what I do, like, I get that smoothie, and from 5 to 9, maybe I drink my smoothie, or maybe it's done before then, who knows. But then by, like, 11, I'm like, okay, I get a little snacky, and then I have lunch at, like, 12 to 1. And then, like, if I can split my meals up, like, every 3 hours when I'm bulking, that's ideal for me. But it's not always easy to do when...
it's nice so when you're eating every 3 hours because there's no ever, like, feeling of needing to eat more. There's no, like, cravings go away when you have a certain diet like that, when you're consistent, because it's like, I get to eat in 3 hours and I have no urge to eat right now, and I get my meal's already made. All I gotta do is go heat it up and eat it. Yeah. And it's already, like, ready. It's that consistency when I did do that was, like, so nice just because, like, I legitimately didn't have cravings because I knew I had enough food.
Yeah.
And that was the only thing that mattered, was having enough food.
And another thing people don't talk about is, like, or people don't realize it can get so much better when you actually eat properly, is your digestion. Like, if you're eating, like, on a schedule like that, like, every 3 hours or so, like, your digestive schedule is going to be the best it's ever been in your life. Like, it's going to be amazing. Gonna be even now, like, with prep, like, because I'm so routine with all the stuff I do, like, I used to, like, not that I've had bad digestive problems, but, like,
everyone,
girls, heartburn. Like, a lot more. Yeah, I feel like with, like, dairy and heartburn and acid reflux and just stuff that happens all the time. I don't have any of that now. Like, my body is literally like it just works exactly machine, like a machine. Yeah, it does. It's crazy, but, like, we don't realize we do those things to ourselves sometimes. Like, those digestive problems or, like, the acid reflux. Like, yeah, if you don't freaking eat anything all day and you go get your coffee from Starbucks, that's all you've had, you're going to have acid reflux and you're going to shit your pants. That's exactly what's going to happen. Like, and you're doing that to yourself.
Yeah.
So eat food.
You have nothing and you just drank all that caffeine. You're ready to go. And I'll tell you what, there's mornings where I won't have breakfast and I'll go lift. And on the way to the lift, you get your pre-workout in, and guess what? You get to the gym.
You get to the gym, and
you're gonna have to go to the bathroom. Yeah, you gotta go to the bathroom. Because you're definitely not gonna do it when you get on the stair stepper.
No.
Because then that shit's gonna hit you.
And you're definitely not gonna do it mid squat either.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be horrible. That would be. I would laugh so uncontrollably hard if someone, like, you just saw mid squat and then you just saw it in their eyes.
Like,
just like in the mirror, like, you know what they did, and you're like, I'm not gonna say shit. Go do your thing.
Oh God.
I like those moments too at the gym where it's like, I did it the other day, like, where you actually, I don't put freaking clamps when I bench, because obviously if you don't have a spotter, you can just dump it.
Right. Yeah.
And sometimes in the morning, there's no one there to turn on the music for the gym, so it's just silent, and I don't have headphones currently, so it's just silent.
How do you do that?
I don't know.
I feel like that's a mental brain power you have to talk about.
Well,
I don't know if I could mentally do that.
I'll tell you right now.
That takes some freaking heart there.
It's funny only because I can, like, you kind of are you're also in your own little world because everyone else has headphones on. That's
true.
So, like, it's not like, but there was one dude listening and I didn't know this. But everyone had their headphones on, and then I dumped because I couldn't get it up, so I was like, fuck it, and I just dumped everything, and then the dude doing the triceps literally right behind me, like, he's like, are you all right? And I just started, like, I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I had no idea that anyone, like, could hear me or watch me, and then he just started laughing, and I was like, shit. I was so sure I got away from that, like, no one, like, heard. I mean, obviously, like, weights glaying, but, like,
yeah.
No, like, and that's crazy too. When people are on the headphones, they're just straight ahead. Even if there's weights banging, no one gives a shit. Like, no one even looks. And the guy caught me, and I was kind of pissed that he caught me. But I need headphones. I think I'm getting some for my birthday, which will make things a lot better. But no, you definitely do need headphones while you're lifting. It's pretty hard not to, or at least to listen to something. My problem is if I have my phone and I'm really specific on what I want to listen to, or I get on Instagram and then I just pretend like I'm messing with the music when really I'm just chilling.
Doing whatever.
Yeah.
That's like a rule for me when I'm at the gym. I do not respond to any text messages. I don't do any of that at the gym.
My last job completely ruined that for me.
Yeah.
And that was one of the main things on why I was, like, freakishly just, like, down in the dumps. Because I would literally leave work and I'd be like, oh, I didn't get to lift in the morning. I'll go lift. And I legitimately can't leave my phone. And back then I had headphones. So if you, like, texted me, I would immediately hear it.
Right.
I was immediately hearing text in between. Like, I would, like, go check my phone, come back halfway through the set and get a text.
Yeah.
From someone at work. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, if I can't fucking lift in peace, this job will be the death of me. Like, there's no way I'm going to keep this job.
Well, no job should be like that. Like, like anything that you want to do in peace. Like, outside of your work hours, you shouldn't be bothered.
Exactly. And that's...
like, you've got to have that balance for yourself.
Yes.
Because it doesn't matter how much you like your job, you will get burnt out if you're in a scenario like that.
And if you can't go home and be fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you got to be able to be not at your job. You're supposed to like your job, but you don't need it all the time.
Yeah.
So, and speaking back to the whole personal training, the reason I got into it, or that I want to get into it, is that if I'm online and I'm in that van and I can go, that's like an income on the road.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so much, and I can do whatever I want on the road and still have clients and still be able to do what I want and still be able to, like, not even feel bad about it. Because, like, I can still, I already worked with you on my computer. Like, there's no change. You don't need to know where I'm at.
Yeah.
And that would be so ideal. So, long term, like, down the road, what do you want to, like, what would your dream be for the business?
I would love to eventually have a gym one day, but I don't think that's like a full Seymour Fitness thing. Like, that's more of like a personal thing that I would use for my business as needed, right? But it's not. It wouldn't be like long term where I see Seymour Fitness going. But like eventually we would have a gym. That would be awesome. I would like to have more coaches than just me and Kelly right now, because I'd like to. I like the idea of one-on-one coaching. I think it's important, so I always want to offer that to people. I'm like pretty much maxed out with my clients right now of what I can have. So continuing that on with the one-on-one coaching. I use a different app right now for like my software and stuff that I do. I'd love to have my own and be able to control everything like on my own there, my own app, like anything I want on it, exactly the way that I want it. That would be awesome. But long term, like it's a hard question for me because I think that the industry is changing a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think every industry is changing a little bit with like AI and everything that's coming out. So I'm gonna have to like pivot my business and what I do to be able to stand out and offer more to my clients and just offer them things that they can't get anywhere else from any other software or anything else, right? So I want to keep doing what I'm doing long term. I always want to have Seymour Fitness, but obviously keep growing and have a much broader audience and have it not just be like me and one other person reaching out to people. Have it be multiple coaches all under my training methods that, you know, I feel comfortable
allowing to coach with me.
Yes, exactly.
You just want to build a staff that you obviously, like, everyone has the same goal, and we're just like, I'll give you the framework to help these people, you use my framework, and we're chilling. I want to like have, because we have a community now, so I don't want to say like my goal is to build a community, because we do have a community, but a much bigger community. And one where like when people, like, I would love for people to just like think of Seymour Fitness as the like one-stop shop for health and wellness, right? Like anything that you need, you can find there, and you can feel confident that you're getting helpful, trusted information when you're doing so. Just knowing that the fact that it's going to be good, it's going to be useful, you will get what you, whatever they tell you will happen, as long as you follow it. That's pretty dope.
But I don't know exactly how I'm going to get there yet, but that's, every level has a new devil, like I said, and I'll figure it out, but I know that the basis of what we're doing now is what I want to continue to do, but on a larger scale. And continue to learn new things or stuff to learn.
Where's your, like, farthest client, if you have online clients?
Right now, I have one. I've got one in Minnesota. I've got one in Texas. I've got one in Florida. I've got one in New York. Those are like my out-of-staters. So Florida, maybe Texas.
Farthest, That's pretty cool though that you have those other, like, I mean, it's not, I mean, Minnesota's relatively close, but Florida, Texas, and New York, just to know that your reach has gotten that far is just good to know. You know what I mean?
One day I think it would, I don't know if I've thought about this a lot. I don't know if I would want to do it. I think it would be fun to coach competition clients one day and have like a competition team. But I am not for sure if I want to do that long term. Because that would be like, if I were to do that, I would probably completely give up my lifestyle clients and hand them off to other coaches of mine.
And then
I would just focus on competition clients.
Yeah. And you'd probably have to, like, in comparison to how many you could take, in comparison to lifestyle, you could probably only take, you probably have to take less with physique because there's just a lot more that goes into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot more training, a lot more planning, a lot more day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
But those people are obviously willing to pay too if you were, to switch.
Right.
But that'd be cool. It would kind of suck giving up the other, though.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a lot of clients, like, I love what I do because of, like, the relationships I build with people. Like, I am very thankful to say, like, I've got some clients that have been with me for over 2 years.
Yeah.
Like...
And hopefully 2 years now is short in comparison to what it is.
Right.
You know what I mean? 5, 10 years down the road, they're still, like,
exactly.
working with you.
So, like, building up that just, like, lasting revenue, but not thinking of it as revenue either. Just, like, lasting resources for people to always have, like, no matter what stage of your fitness journey that you're in. Which we have that now, but, like, having it more broad and maybe more affordable for, like, options that are more affordable because we'll have more people later on to continue that on would be great because, if I had anything that was like $50 a month, like, I'm sure everybody would continue on, afterwards.
I feel like I was thinking about that too when I was doing, like, the whole unbundle your value or whatever. But I was like, what if you had, like, because obviously, depending, if you have a client for 2 years, I understand that there's always more teaching to be done. But when it comes to the baseline stuff,
they should know.
They should
if you've been a good coach.
If you, you know what I mean. Like there should be stuff that 2 years got you to a certain point to where if you are charging $50 a week or a month, like that $50 is literally for you to be able to be like, hey, we have such a good relationship. You have a specific question, we have the, like, bond to be like, I can spend time regardless. I mean,
yes.
But you can also figure out the question pretty quick.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? It's not like we're reinventing the wheel.
Right.
Like, it's not like they're asking you, like, how to go to space. It's like something you should already be pretty well aware. And now you have that lifetime membership to where they always have your access.
Yeah, like all of my clients that have been with me for a year, 2 years, more than that, like, none of them are clients that are, like, actively working on a specific goal right now necessarily.
Just the maintenance.
It's just, like, they just love having me as a coach. They love, like, being able to have me in their back pocket and ask questions, and they love how I set up their workouts for them, and, like, it takes a lot of stress out of their life to not have to do that themselves, right? But they already know how to do that themselves if they wanted to. But they're busy enough to where they don't want to, right?
And they're willing to pay.
The same reason why I have a coach. Like, I obviously know how to do all of this stuff. Maybe not, like, when you get to the competition. Like, there's a lot of stuff I've learned competition prep that I didn't know before. Or, like, not that I necessarily didn't know, but didn't have experience with, right?
The level, how hard you got to do it.
Yes. But I have a coach because I manage 50 other people's lives or more. I don't want to manage my own. Right, exactly. Like, if I were trying to just hold myself accountable to me throughout the week with everything I have going on, it's way easier for me to be like, you've had a hard week, Colette. Like, you don't have to go to the gym, whatever. It's harder for me to text my coach and be like, by the way, I missed 3 of my training days this week and I didn't hit my macros these 4 days. And he'd be like, what are you paying me for? You know what I mean? Like, exactly.
There's no effort. So why would you do it? Yeah. It's, so back to coaching. I had this question for another guy I did a podcast with. Do you have a hard time programming for yourself? And, like, not even just, like, that you don't trust it, but, like, you'll get, and since you programmed it, you'll be like, oh, I can tweak this because this will make it better today specifically because of this is how I feel. You know what I mean?
I have never, like, That's a good question, because I've never, like, really been aware of that, like, how we can maybe be, biased towards ourselves, like, creating our own training plans or things.
Yeah, if I make a plan, I will almost legitimately change 2 or 3 things the first session.
Yeah.
Because I thought of 3 or 4 different things when I was making the plan, and then I got there that day, and I was like, yup, that 4th thing is actually what I wanted to do. And then I do that. And then once that goes, the first day, I mean, I'll look at it the second day, but then I'm like, oh, it's just back. Okay. And then I'll walk in and do back.
Yeah.
It's not the plan. It's not recorded. It's not tracked, but it's still valuable, I guess. But it's
For me, I've always been one to track my workouts. Like, I have rarely ever went into the gym without a plan at all, because to me, it just seems counterproductive to me. Like, if I'm not going in with a plan and, like, knowing exactly what I want to do, why am I spending my time doing it? So for me, I've never noticed it, like, being too much of an issue to make my own planning and, like, or my own programming or changing things up as I need. But I will say that in the last year that me and myself have worked with a coach, I have completely leveled up my physique entirely. So while I don't think it's been a problem for me, there's obviously been some change in my diligence and things that I do since I have a coach. Yes. Like, because also to that point, like, there's the piece of, like, you don't want to let somebody down, but there's also the financial piece of it. Like, I pay about the same for my coach as what I charge clients to pay, like, when they work with me. And, you know, it's an investment, and I don't want to be wasting that. Like, if I'm going to invest in it to learn and do the best that I can, I'm going to be making sure that I'm
following through.
Yeah, like I'm actually putting in the work for it. So that is a whole other piece of it too. Like, and then with this competition stuff, like, anytime I think about cheating or, like, eating something that I shouldn't,
you just think about them, and then
I think about all the money I've spent on my posing coach and my actual coach throughout this. I think about the money I spent on my suit. I think about the money I spent to register for the show, and all of the time and things that I've said no to prepare up to this point. And I'm like, that's not worth it.
Isn't it crazy? And, like, just from a coach and, like, not wanting to take people's money because you don't know your value, blah, blah, blah. But then you think about, if I spend all this money, I have so much more gumption to freaking do it. You know what I mean? Like, you proved it yourself, so then, like, you can understand why other people should pay what they pay for training and coaching services, because guess what? It makes you want to do it more.
Right.
And if they're good coaches, you have plenty to do. Like, they will give you plenty to work on or to learn or to, you know, grow. So all you have to do is sit there, absorb it, and do it.
Yeah.
And it's pretty, like, simple, but it's like, when you put the money, dollar signs behind it, you're way more apt to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy to think about, though, because, you know, like, you always want the cheap thing, and you always like, oh, this will work. Like, all those workout plans that you could buy for $10, those do work.
Yeah.
But you have to, like, do them.
Right.
And you have to know, like, how they feel and, like, how to actually lift. And, like, there's so much to that, too. Like, the way people move
how intense you are.
Yeah, how intense. Well, like, there's just things, like, free weight movements that, like, people just don't know how to move. And they don't know, like, actually contract your glutes when you do a deadlift. Don't just, like, stand up.
Don't just do the motion. Like, feel what you're
Feel
working.
what you're... Like, if you, like, get into that position, like, if you can hinge properly, first of all, already kudos, because, like, no one can do that, it seems like. Like, just, you know, feel your hamstrings and not something else hurting while you're doing that. And then actually understanding, like, oh, like, if you were to squeeze your butt cheeks right now, like, that's literally all you thought about. And just, like... It's really hard because you can't freaking feel it. You've never felt it before. But once you feel it, it's like, oh, like, that's the muscle I'm supposed to be using during this?
Yeah.
I've never knew that. And it's like, oh, my God.
It changes your workout.
It changes everything because, like, now you do, and you actually want to do something because you feel what you're actually working.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know, that's one of my, like, most fun things when personal training is, like, you see someone do something, and it's like, I used to do it like that, and I remember when I, like, curled my shoulder over something, like, this shit didn't work. And then you're like, okay, before you grab that, retract your shoulder. And then they do it and they're like, holy, I can't. I'm like, yeah, so we're going to lower the weight because you thought you could do that.
Right.
But you can't do it right that way.
I did that literally with a client today.
Yeah, and it's so crazy because, like, you don't understand, like, obviously you don't know what you don't know, but, like, people forget how to move so fast.
Yep.
So fast.
Or, like, I had a client today doing a shoulder press, and when she's doing the shoulder press, her back, like, is
Arches.
arching entirely. So when you do that, it turns into an incline press.
Yep.
It's no longer a shoulder press at that point. And you're getting your chest muscles involved, and she's, throwing up the 25 or 25s it was, and she's doing that, and I was like, okay, now touch your lower, like, push your lower back into the bench as you're doing it, so your shoulders are, you've got a correct bar path there, and she did that, and she couldn't even lift it. I was like, okay, we're gonna do 22 and a half. She couldn't do that. I was like, okay, we're going down to 20s, and she could do it, but I was like, this is how you need to do this. Like, do you feel the difference?
Yeah, the weight doesn't matter.
Do you feel it only in your shoulder? And she was like, yeah, like, I really, like, my shoulders hurt, and before,
my
I'm
back
like, exactly.
hurt. My back hurt.
That's what I told her. I'm like, you might not feel that in your lower back now, but you will when you get some heavier weight on there.
No, and then I had one dude, and this is, like, one of the main reasons I think I got into, like, actually wanting to do this is I had to train someone when I was at Central. I trained a professor, and we did the sit and reach test, okay?
Oh, yeah.
I told someone to do that, and then when they were already doing it, I told them, you can start now. I did that whole thing, and he's like, I am. And I was like, oh my God.
No.
I was like, I felt so bad. He got 3 inches. He literally went from here to there. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, whoa. I'm like, are you serious? Like, seriously? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, because at that point, I was leveling with him. I was like, dude. And he's like, you understand, like, if I wasn't able to tell the difference, like, he's like, no, this is, like, one of the main things I want to work on. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. By the end of the semester, I think we only did 8 weeks. Is that how long a semester is? Semesters are 16. But I think...
Mine were...
Oh, 15?
15, I think.
Yeah. So...
Or 16. I don't know.
Roughly. I think we had a full thing, but we had COVID in there at some point, so we started doing online training, which clearly is a little bit different when you go from in-person to online. But I got his sit and reach to be 15 at the end of it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And we, like, didn't even, I mean, like, we didn't get much strong. I mean, we lifted a little bit, but, like, legitimately half of our workouts were just stretching.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can ride, he rides bikes, or he, like, races, like, cross-country on his bike. He's like, I can get off my bike and not be stuck in the position anymore. Yeah. He's like, I can bend over and pick up my keys. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, yeah, if I couldn't bend over and pick up my keys, I would definitely have some issues.
Yeah.
Like, I would be royally pissed. And I was like, that was so cool that literally all we did was stretch. Mm-hmm. And you're like, head and shoulders. And then, once again, like the shoulders thing you said, I would have him go, he couldn't put his, like, if you were put your wall back against the wall, you put your elbows against the wall, you put your freaking wrist against the wall, and then you go up and down. This guy literally was just elbows, no wrists, and then when we got to, like, here, he could get his wrists back.
Wow.
So, like, I was like, okay, like, if you come here and I'm not here for some reason, all I want you to do is stretch. And that's one of them, and then go over here and do these ones. And I would literally come in there every day, and he was doing those. And then we got, like, the long line stretches. And that's the machine in the gym that I was like, I will never use because that's so stupid. But it's like the one that's just all the different angles of bars for stretching. And it's like, until college.
Great for him.
Until college, I never used that.
Yeah.
And then I looked at it, I was like, oh, that guy freaking loves it. And then I obviously do the same thing. I'm like, it's probably not as drastic for me, but, like, I can still, like, I still understand why this shit feels good.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Everyone has tightness. So it was like, I don't know. It's just a whole other aspect of training that you didn't even think about. That, like, even when you know about training, there's always something that just slides under the radar, and you're like, holy shit.
Right.
Like that. And, like, right now, like, gut health. No one knows how, like, it's not, like, an exact science yet to actually measure individually people. People obviously know more about gut health, but, like, it's hard to individualize that to people. And once I feel like that is, like, easy or accessible, that's just another thing that people are gonna, like, do, and then all of a sudden shit's just gonna click for people. And
that's
it's like,
what I've started implementing that with my clients too. I have, like, a questionnaire that I send them. It's got all these questions, like Do you feel stressed? Do you have acid reflux? Do you bloat after you drink water? How often do you go to the bathroom? Like, all these things.
Yep.
And depending on what they bold and, like, send back to me, I'm able to tell pretty easily if they've got anything going on. Like, there are certain gut health, like, if you bloat just from drinking water, that's not normal. You've got something going on. Like, some sort of gut bacteria that should not be in there, right?
Yeah.
Or
and
some
you haven't,
imbalance going on.
Yeah.
You know, so things like that. But yeah, it's being talked about a lot more now, and definitely something that, again, a lot of, like, younger females in general, but younger females too, like, to struggle with digestion problems and their gut health and all this stuff, and it's probably something you're doing to yourself.
And there's no one to ask.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no one at, like, a high
like,
school.
People don't know. You can get, like, I send clients to get stool samples done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can do that if you've got gut health issues going on. You can poop in a box and order it online. That sounds stupid, but, like, getting that test done and seeing what's going on, you're never going to know unless you do that. And, and see if something is going on. And it's
just
not
because you're uncomfortable
out.
Pooping in a box
right.
is not a reason not to do it.
Exactly.
Oh, that was funny because me and my girlfriend talked about, she's like, when you turn 45, you have to get a colonoscopy. And I was like, is there anything other way to not get a colonoscopy? And she's like, well, you could poop in a box. And I'm like, she's like, well, you have to do that every 3 years compared to if you get a colonoscopy every 10. I was like, Gabby, I think I'm gonna poop in a box.
I'd rather poop in a box.
I think I'm chill with it. No one has to see me do it. It's a black box. It's not like I'm walking around and it's clear and you can see what's in it. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's pretty chill. I think I can do that every 3 years and be fine. She's like, well, and just gave me a bunch of other crap. I'm like, Gabby, I'm gonna avoid that at all costs. It's not a choice. But yeah, no, that's good old pooping in a box. Can you see it? How long has it been?
I don't know. It's been at least 2 hours, I think.
2 hours.
I think we started at 6:30.
Yeah. I always like to ask.
That went fast.
People, yeah, exactly. No one ever knows. I had Dante Burks on one the other day. We did 3.
Oh, yeah, I know him.
We did 3 hours, and he checked his, like, he knew what time it was, but, like, he didn't even know it was 3 hours. I was like, yeah, dude, that was freaking wild.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I told him that I was doing one with you next. He's like, you guys haven't, like, talked, but he's like, he knew who you, like, the fitness side of it and everything.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's
We've
cool.
sent a couple messages back and forth, but nothing, like, because he's in Mount Pleasant, too, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then he coaches at Meridian, and, yeah, it was cool. Like, I literally, and him just goes to my gym, and, like, we would, like, passerby, say hi, and, like, one time, a long time ago, I figured out that he coached at Meridian, because obviously I coached at Beaverton at a point, so I saw him across.
Yeah.
And then I made a comment to be like, hey, like, I saw you at the fucking game last week, you know, like, blah, 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 talk to him, and then I just do the whole, like, pass by, and then I DM'd him, and then we talked for literally 3 hours about, like, what sports should your kids do when when they're young?
Yeah.
And, like, all, like, just and we, like, talked about football and how our, like, we had our moment of, like failure. Like, we didn't even, like, reminisce. We're just like, yeah, there was one point where, like, we fucked up really bad and our team, like, hurt for it. And that was, like, super fun deal. Like, we just talked about that. And then, obviously, a lot of training and content and how he, like, produces so much and how he, like, trains and what his goals are and everything. Yeah. He wants to be, like, a speaker.
Yeah, I could see him doing that.
He wants to be
That was actually a goal of mine for a long time, too. I remember in high school, I wanted to be a motivational speaker. Like, that was my thing. Yeah. I love, like, speaking and doing things like that, but I don't think I could do that, like, full-time with the travel and stuff. Like, stage doesn't bother me at all. No? I'm in a band. I'm a lead singer, so I am very comfortable with the stage. Yeah. So, like, that's what I'm excited about with my competition, too, because a lot of people, like, don't realize stage presence is something, like,
matters.
You've got to work on, too, with all of that. I have that part already. Like, I'm very comfortable with that. But, like, as far as, like, the travel, like, all the traveling and stuff that you have to do, like, I like traveling, but I'm more of a homebody where, like, I like routine. Yeah. I like to be in the same routine, and I thrive in that. That's for me.
I do, too, but I also want to be in a bus and live and be able to go wherever the hell I want. Because when I went out west, I'll tell you what, west is a whole different breed. Different weather, different people, different everything. And it's just so cool to, like, experience it all. And, like, national parks, just to, like, go feel small for a little bit. Yeah. Is, like, so cool.
I'm going on a road trip to Texas with my mom in October, and we're stopping at a couple of national parks in Arkansas and a couple in Crap. I don't remember. Now I feel dumb because it's obviously on the way to Texas. But a couple national parks, and I'm just
there's so
super
many,
excited for it. Like to see some things I haven't seen before because I like the outdoors a lot. I like to do anything outside, lots of hikes and things like that.
It's just we went to Zion and we did Angel's Landing, which is like the most dangerous one.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever done it, but there's literal spots to where like the trail is like this wide as this stool, and if you fall off the edge, you're like you could probably have a conversation with yourself until you hit the ground. Like you're.
Oh my god.
I saw the top of a condor. I was above the bird.
I would love to do that. That
it
sounds
was
awesome.
Amazing. And then I do like handstands all the time because I like learn at the gym. I saw somebody do it and I was like, you know what? I'm going to fucking learn how to do handstands and then walk on my hands. So I learned how to do that and I got up there and I told my brother, I was like, I'm going to do a handstand on the top of this. And when we got there and it turned out it was like, you're on a rock that's like this.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still like, it's as big as this room.
Yeah.
So I mean, like if you fall, unless you like fall and you comically roll for like a really long time,
right? You'll be fine.
You'll be fine, but it's also just scary.
Yeah.
You know. So I didn't do it, but next time I climb up that thing, I'm gonna do that, and I'm so excited because I think that would just be like the coolest picture, and everyone around me will be like shitting bricks because they'll be like, oh my god, he's gonna fall, and like I saw a chipmunk. It was the funniest shit ever. We were all like me, my brother, and a bunch of other people were sitting there. And like all the squirrels and like chipmunks would just come and like eat your shit.
Right.
They're just chilling, and they don't like none of them will bite you. I was sitting there feeding them peanuts, and they'll just crawl over you, and it doesn't matter. There's like 3 or 4 of them. They'll just be all over you, and they'll just walk away. And I saw one. I threw a peanut, and I didn't throw it over the edge, but I like rolled it like right to the edge. Mm-hmm. A squirrel legitimately picked that thing up, and there had to have been something like to catch him, but he literally just jumped off the edge and like landed on something, but none of us could see that, and like so 5 of us were like, that chipmunk just committed suicide, and all of us are like, what the fuck just happened? Like he got a peanut and then he was dead, and it was just like it was the funny, like I literally we all stared at it and we all like walked over there, couldn't find it obviously because it ran away or something,
right? Yeah.
But like it was the weirdest
That's
scenario.
Super funny.
Yeah, and then seeing a top of a condor was also like. And it was small, too. Like, condors are, like, you know, wingspan, like, 5-6 feet.
Yeah.
Like, you look at this thing, and it is a speck, and you're above it. So, you know, like, it's just so, I've never been on something that high. Mm-hmm. It was crazy. And they're the easiest, like, I was like, they should just sell parachutes up here, so then you don't have to walk down.
Right.
And you could just chink. And it's just one big valley.
Zip line.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
It would be very cool. It'd be so cool. Okay. I think we're good.
All right. Cool. That's a wrap.
Thanks for being on. That was fun.
Thank you.